Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Indie Spotlight. And times are tough, so we're digging up old guests, or not guests, because he's never been a guest. Well, we dug him up, and he's here on the show. And Clint's going to tell you all about him, right?
I am, and we should also mention that I think Leah's here too. So
Yeah.
normally
I am. Hi there.
she's here. You're gonna hear Leah, chime in every once in a while too. But I am Clint, and today we are going to be talking a little bit about horror photography, a little bit about multiple personalities, a little bit about performance art. But what makes this episode especially exciting is for the first time ever here on Indie Spotlight, we are joined in the spooky studio for the show's first ever interview with photographer, actor, performance artist, local Detroit zombie extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, boils and ghouls, we give you Dedd Fredd.
Well, hello everybody. How you doing? Nice to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
You sound a little different because when I see you at the shows, I hear your screech, and then you're kind of just quiet and menacing and like trying to attack people from the corner. You're well spoken for someone we did dig up.
Yeah, well, I brushed up on my thesaurus and dictionary, so I could be a little more eloquent for your show.
Thank
Above the
God,
normal
because
growls and groans.
we need some culture on this show, so we appreciate it. Before we take a bite out of the part of your brain that composes some of the haunting stills that you manifest with your camera lens, which is amazing, by the way, I want to get to some of that. I want to explore some of your character actor personas just a bit. And so you're usually Dedd Fredd.
Currently, yeah.
Anybody who sees Fred at any of the events around Michigan, which Leah covers all the time on Mishmash and her outlet Pure Macabre, it's usually Dedd Fredd, which also scares the hell out of me. Like I say, the screech, it scares the hell out of my ex too. When we were at shows and we would see you, you'd be set up like at a booth around the corner or whatever from inkmirrors.com. And she'd always be looking at you out of the corner of her eye. Like, I want to go over there because his artwork is drawing me in and his photography, but I'm not going to fucking go near him. And so I would say, well, I'm going to go and just like tell him to come over here. She was, threatened to leave if I did that. You scared her. But
Well, it actually makes me feel good that I can terrify people.
grown adults too.
Yeah.
You also embody other characters. I've seen you embody Nosferatu. Of course, there was Mr. Fizzle. There's others, which we want to hear about. I want to talk about the crazed homeless party crasher story that I heard from our mutual friend, Ted Williams, from Ted's Marvelous Custom Gumball Emporium. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Kitty. That just sort of derived from both Ted and I being pretty. Am I allowed to swear?
Absolutely. You say whatever the fuck you
okay.
want, sir.
All right. Ted and I being just pretty fucking weird and working together for a municipality. I'll keep the name out of it. And just seeing the street life and things. And at the time, I had my beard growing out, and just we would joke about how creepy that could be. And just for shits and giggles, I came up with this character. He dared me to show up to his Halloween party. So I put together this best homeless costume I could. My beard's all fluffed out. I had real crickets in my beard. And it's a lot of fun. And nobody knew who I was. So that was Kitty. And Kitty's made a few appearances at a couple of haunts and stuff. And it's pretty fun.
When Ted told me that story, the same way you just told it, but he also told me that when you showed up to his Halloween party, he had no fucking clue who you were. And he went over to Heather and was like, who the hell is that? And he said, you showed up and you're just kind of like standing there and just staring at people. And these crickets are hanging from your beard. And like, it took him a minute to really realize what was going on. They thought they were being invaded by some crazed homeless guy from Hellraiser that was going to offer him a puzzle box or something.
Yeah. And that's right. I forgot that I hadn't put together the look. We were just joking and just had beer. But yeah, I put together the look unbeknownst to Ted and showed up. That's right. And you're jogging my memory. I have so many people that live in my head. Sometimes I forget who does what.
Hey, we're loaded with personalities, multiple personalities, especially on this show. But I mean, that's a great segue because again, there's so many characters that you embody. Again, you kind of predominantly live in the skin of Dedd Fredd, it seems like, but you recently brought back Mr. Fizzle within the last year or so. Can you
Oh
tell us
yeah,
about Mr. Fizzle?
yeah, Mr. Fizzle. So the origin of that was me being a makeup artist. I would do folks for Halloween party, and this one couple hired me, gosh, year after year, and they were big Halloween party fans. So he wanted to be a scary clown, the husband. And at that time, I was a professional clown. So that was like kind of taboo. So I said, well, you're a good client. I can come up with this look for you. So I sort of created the mock-up of Fizzle. And he had something different in mind. We did that. And I thought, well, I can't put this beautiful makeup to waste. So I went out to a party that way and just scared the bejesus out of everybody. I'm like, this is something. I have to keep working on it. Yeah, he's got a whole backstory now. And in a perfect world, he would have a little movie or something. That is Mr. Fizzle. He basically embodies evil.
He's got the sharp teeth, and then you just have this way of being and Leah, you'll appreciate this because you're always talking about characters emoting, which all of Fred's characters aren't covered. He's got the makeup so his facial expressions can show, but I've noticed, and especially with Mr. Fizzle too, you have this way of emoting and bringing just simple little subtle things to life with your facial movements. So
Oh yeah, that was something I made a conscious choice because I've done special effect makeup, especially with Fred, because I wanted the expressions and being dramatic or whatever. I'm like, well, I can't have appliances all over my face because people won't get it. Anybody that's decent with makeup can buy some very nice appliances, turn themselves into a zombie. Not everybody's got this guy's face here, so that's part of the fun.
Also, what you had said earlier when I was doing a little bit of research to check up on you, the screeching. So it's the emoting and it's the screeching, because I actually got confused because you were in a Instagram post with a dinosaur and I heard the screeching and I thought it was coming from the dinosaur, but it was you.
That was me. Yeah,
was,
some people said that. Yeah.
It was so impressive. But
thank you.
Like Clint said, I do love emoting. I do love people who are able to get that across. And even in just the videos I saw of you, it really was impressive.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Fizzle, also he speaks with a Cockney accent, and that was just a way around those crazy veneers that I wear. It's hard to speak. So I just started talking. It's like, oh, well, if I do a Cockney accent, my mouth is more open and it works. That's the long and short of why he has a Cockney accent. And it's just weird.
It's so thoughtful.
One of the things that hit me was you said you want these characters to have a story, or you want Mr. Fizzle to have a story. Have you ever thought about doing short videos or short movies for them?
Absolutely. That's been a desire. And just being an actor, it helps me when I'm out in public to make that character more special. So Dedd Fredd has a backstory. Mr. Fizzle has a backstory. So even though you might not know it, for me as the actor, it's like, okay, I'm not just walking around in a costume. I am this character at this point in time.
No,
so
I think
Mr. Fizzle, long and short, was very popular circus clown once upon a time, had a kiddie show. And sort of fell out of graces when kids started going for the astronaut shows and things like. So he found an old gypsy from the circus and wanted to be popular again. I always want to be Mr. Fizzle. Well, the moral of the story is be careful what you ask for. So she permanently turned him into Mr. Fizzle, and he can't not be Mr. Fizzle. And he's sort of gone crazy at this point.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool if you're at a convention and you see this clown walking around or whatever character you are, and then they have a short maybe at your table that's playing, or they've played it at the film festival. Yeah, bring people to your table, and then maybe you end up with some 8x10s of Mr. Fizzle, or
Yeah. That is a goal.
Yeah, you have your other characters too, and they're like, well, today you're this character, but who's this? And then who's that? And that. Yeah. And who's this person with all the crickets in their beard?
I want to see that one in person for sure.
Okay. We'll have to make that happen.
Again, you kind of touched a little bit, because I don't know a whole lot about your origin of why you do or how you've fallen into the different things that you do. But you talked about you used to be a professional clown, and you talked about the makeup artist. Like, can you give us kind of like a start? Where did you begin into this journey of all these things that you do now?
Well, gosh, I mean, I was thinking about that earlier. When I was a kid with my friends and my sister, we would put on little skits for our parents. I always liked entertaining, watching Carol Burnett and variety shows. I always enjoyed that. And my dad loved Halloween, and he was a very artistic person. and love to dabble in makeup. So that's kind of where I got my start with that. And then in school, being in the drama club after school, I just like, hey, I was doing magic and, earning extra money doing shows. So I would constantly hone my skills as a performer, always improving the makeup too. So that's a big thing. And then just I went to film school and decided early on I'd rather be live acting. I did a couple of short films, project things, and that just wasn't super exciting to me. But I liked acting. I liked doing plays and stuff. That's the acting end of it. And then makeup, I just really found that I had a knack for it. So I kept learning and going to workshops and growing my skills there.
So how did that lead into the photography? Because I actually got a couple more things I want to talk about with your performance art, but that's a perfect cue up for the photography because you do some amazing shots.
Well, thank you. Actually, I was interested in being a graphic artist. So after high school, I went to a trade school. Unfortunately, I broke my wrist like a couple months in. And back then, you were actually hand drawing stuff. There was no computer animation or graphics like we know today. And the teacher said, hey, we have this photography class. Maybe you'd like that. And I had done yearbook stuff, tried it out, fell in love with it, and never looked back at graphic design. Although I used a little bit of that here and there when I do logos or something. I just fell in love with photography, and I had an amazing teacher. He also loved black and white. I think that's what really nurtured my love of black and white photography. And I never looked back. And he got me some jobs, production assistant, unpaid. And I thought, wow, this is really neat. I like this whole world, doing, the videos or being behind the camera for a movie. I enjoyed all that, putting things together. It grew and grew. And then eventually I got to be, my job became photography. I did that for years, still do side jobs, but I had my own studio for a bit. That was kind of the dream job until I decided, hey, I'm going to get married. I need kids. I guess I better have more stable income than just the single guy with his cameras.
Adulting always comes along and just fucks everything up, doesn't it?
Does. They lie to us, man.
Yeah.
I want to stay a kid.
Well, I love hearing that about your backstory because I think it's important too. It reminds me of some of the stuff that we do. There's nothing wrong with going into one aspect of what you want to do, whether it be acting or makeup or whatever, and hyper focusing on just that. But I like to live in a world of possibilities myself. So to kind of have your fingers into a little bit of everything and the pulse of everything, I think is great. It makes you very versatile for anybody, and opportunities. So many different opportunities pop up because of that. Back to your performance art and your characters. Kind of the last question I was going to ask you for a rundown of all of them, but it sounds like there's so many. But what I want to know, you predominantly live in the skin of Dedd Fredd. And so what is it about that persona as others that make you just are drawn to that more often than not?
Did a couple of stints with the circus, did sideshow stuff, but there you had to learn to really draw the crowd with physicality. If you're in a big ring circus, you can't just sit there and talk, or most of the time you can't. So it's your actions, it's your body movements, and I learned miming and all that. Dedd Fredd sort of became the culmination of all these little skills that I picked up along the way: facial gestures, miming, body movement. And sometimes the art of being quiet can be stronger than a loud voice. People are like, well, what's that guy up to? Watch Marcel just focused on what he's up to, and you don't have to listen to anything because he's not speaking. So that's one of the things was fun with Fredd as he became more popular. And I went from a scare actor at a haunt to, hey, I'm the head guy. People are coming to see me because it's interesting. Walking around the conventions, I'm sure you see me eating a banana and offering it to people. Just seemed funny to me. And so now people expect me to do weird, silly things. So that's the big thing with Fredd. It's like, there's a little bit of clowning under there. There's maybe a little bit of the pantomime, and I get to scare people. So he's kind of rolled all my little fun hobbies into one. That's I love doing Fredd the most.
I'm so glad you said that because it reminds me or makes me feel that I'm not crazy, because all of my haunt characters that I do, I've told myself that underneath it all, they're clowns. I think a lot of people think if you want to be a scary clown, you have to be a clown. Like, no, you can turn every single character basically, bare bones into a clown and then build off that, like the mime aspect and everything. That's amazing. You had touched on some haunted stuff. So have you done haunt acting, or is there a specific haunt you work for, or is it just kind of freelance stuff?
Well, so I go way back to the days of the JCs, which I think is almost non-existent anymore.
Yeah, I don't know of any around.
When that was, the local club, you did a lot of stuff for the community, but that was the big fundraiser. So the JCs could then go shopping with the kids for Christmas or, do other things. So I started there like so many people. As a matter of fact, although you won't see it on the show, I'm wearing the Haunted Theater shirt.
I see
So
it.
this was a theater right here in my town, the original theater, and that was a big fundraiser for them every year to do different projects. But I've worked for quite a few, traveled a little bit, just doing little workshops with makeup and characters in and out of state since I was, a kid. Probably in my mid-20s is when people started to recognize, hey, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. We should invite him down, especially with the JC group. There's a good network there. So it's like, hey, can you run down to the Ohio JCs and help them out? Then it moved into the brand new world of, hey, now they pay actors. What a novel thing, huh?
Well, and I tell you now, I mean, I'll do actor auditions being a haunt owner. If right off the bat, they're like, how much do you pay? I'm like, no, thanks. Interview's over with. I'm going to pay you. But if that's your driving force, then no, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, because their heart's in the wrong place.
Absolutely.
Taught, magic and clowning classes. And that was one of the first questions. Why do you want to do this? Oh, I want to make money. I've spent more money on my hobby than I've made, but the passion needs to be there first, like you're saying. You will make money if you're good, but if you're getting into haunting because you want to be rich, well, good luck.
Yeah, and all of this wonderful stuff that you do, it's the passion that you have behind it definitely shows, and that's got to be the driving force. So we've talked a little bit about, again, your personas, your different personalities. You recently released a picture of multiple Dedd Fredds. I love this photo.
Yeah.
All gathered around a magazine that's titled The Book of the Dead, and that was on social media. So is this magazine a real publishing, or was that just created for the photo?
So first, let me speak on the photo. That's my dear friend J.A. Dunbar, local photographer, travels the world. He's got several books out. So he did that at Astronomicon a couple of years ago, that photo. Yeah, The Book of the Dead is my second book, actually. The Book of the Dead, How I Survived the Zombie Apocalypse, is the fan book. So my publisher kept getting emails. It's, hey, when are we going to get a book about Dedd Fredd and why he exists and all that? So that is what the book is.
So it's a real publishing, and you just said
real publishing. Yes.
You just said your second book. So what is
Correct.
the first book?
The first book is Dead on the Road. It's a collection of some of my black and white photography. And that was a total surprise to me. I didn't plan on it. As an artist, I guess that's always a dream. Paul Burke, he's a multi-talented fellow publisher, promoter, hired me to do some stuff with some product he was selling. And then he and his partner loved my work, and they kept asking, hey, well, where do you find these pictures that you post on your page? I'm like, out of my camera.
Right.
So I guess they talked behind the scenes and approached me and said, hey, we want to put out a book of your photography, but it's got to be through the guise of Dedd Fredd. So that's where we came up with Dead on the Road. And it's just all the things that I like to take pictures of: old buildings, barns, odd things on the road that I think are artistic. So that's the first book.
We usually, towards the end of interviews, ask like, well, where can we get these things? But I'd love for you to plug this twice, because I'm curious now, because I want to check this stuff out. So is there a website, or just people catch you out in public at conventions? Like, how do we get these?
So I do sell them at conventions, and then Asylum Publication is Paul's site. You can purchase them. Of course, I always tell people you can, message me, email me. I can always get a copy out. I like to sell them in person so I can autograph them for you.
That's going to make them worth more money for sure. We're all about collecting here too, so the autographs are key. So speaking of literature, you did in fact land on the cover of another book recently titled Free Candy, which is a horror story collection by, is it Dylan Collins Dunbar?
That's correct. So that is my photographer buddy's brother, and he's an amazing guitarist. He's like us, multi-talented, evidently, and he's been writing things, short stories, for a long time. And I guess friends and family encouraged him. He's like, doggone it, I'm going to make this book happen. And it's cool. And then he reached out to me because this photo's one of Jay snapped at me at a convention. He's like, dude, I want you on my cover. How can we make that happen? And I'm like, make it so. So that's fun. I was honored that he asked me to be on the cover.
Leah, I hope you're paying attention, because since you are still the new kid on the block on the show here, I want you to be paying attention to what you have to get myself and Brian for Christmas. We've got books. I do believe there's bookmarks that he's on also. I mean, there's multiple things going on here that, Leah, you're going to have to get for us as initiation.
I'm paying attention. I'm absolutely enthralled. I especially just love the fact, and I feel like this is something that resonates with all of us, is the fact that all of your past experiences and everything that you've done in the past has kind of come full circle, where you were a clown, it came back to doing makeup, this, that, and the other. And that's something that resonates with me, is that things that I've done in the past have come back full circle where I get to do them now. So I'm quiet because I love that. I love hearing how our paths take us to, finding our true calling of what we want. And that just because you do one thing and it doesn't quite go exactly how you thought, but it's something that comes back in the future. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. I'll buy you whatever you want from him. I assure you. But I'm so impressed, and you've lived a billion lives. Honestly, it sounds like.
Well, thanks. Well, it's one of those things. Don't ever say no. Don't cut yourself short. Because trust me, I've done a lot of things, or say a style of photography, and I'm like, well, I kind of suck at that. I won't do that again. But I tried, or maybe I
And
tried
that's all
to
that
do
matters.
a character.
So talking about the layers of all the stuff that you do, now let's get into some snapshots of your photography. I mean, so horror photography, it comes in many forms, such as fan art and horror film scene recreations, like holiday theme photos. Of course, Fred, you know about holidays because I've seen Santa Claus Dedd Fredd. I was Santa Cletus and you were Santa Dedd Fredd.
Santa Fred,
yeah. And he's like looming over the box of the Toys for Tots. And I didn't know if that was like, I dare you to drop something in here, or I dare you to not put something in here. You were gonna eat them either way. But you seem to focus on just original expressions, like close-ups of objects and stuff like that. But you really seem to hone in on again, haunting object and landscape compositions. And it looks like a lot of that is kind of centered around the Eloise in Westland, Michigan.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm more addicted to that place than I should be. Just the story of it, that I did actual historical tours there for a bit. But growing up in the area, having family that worked there, knowing the real history of what a wonderful place it is. Sadly, most people just say, "Oh, it's a nut house." It's like, well, there's a rich history. It was, I believe, our nation's largest tuberculosis clinic.
I've heard that.
They did a lot of wonderful things there. And yes, a lot of bad things happen in the light of, hey, we're researching mental illness, so we're going to drill into somebody's brain and fix it. It's sort of archaic, but at that time, the doctors really thought they were doing something good. I choose to look at it, it's like, yeah, that there was bad things happening, but there was a goal to do some good things behind it all. I don't look at Eloise being this looming place, but then it's just the gorgeous architecture, landscape. Growing up in the area, I remember what it used to look like, and it used to have beautiful gardens and well manicured, and now not so much.
No, there's still a lot of beauty in the building, which again, you seem to capture with your camera. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the grounds are now the strip mall next door with the Kroger attached. And I'm sure there's a Tanner and, stuff like that. But Brian, you probably resonate with the nut house part with your stint at the mental institution.
I wasn't there that long. Come on now.
Yeah, I know. I should stop bringing it up. I should stop busting your balls.
Year and a half. I wasn't that long.
Oh.
What?
Well, you guys are crazy.
I work in healthcare, and I did work on a psychiatric unit for a year and a half. So the running joke is, did I work there, or was I actually there? And it's probably a little bit of both,
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time, everybody could probably use a counselor. Couple sessions. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely.
That for me, and I'm sure Fred, you can attest to this, when you get into character and do these different things, that is therapy. I don't need to go talk to somebody. I can just get it all out when I'm performing somewhere, and you are top notch. I'm sure you entertaining masses. It's got to be when you get done, you just kind of feel cleansed. And just, this is nice.
Oh, absolutely. It is. It does a lot for your mental health. Again, kind of back to that, hey, isn't there a clown deep down inside? And when you can walk away, whether somebody screamed in terror, but then they're laughing after the fact, going, "Oh my gosh, that was so creepy." I feel good because they're having a good time. Whether they're laughing because I did a silly juggling bit, or they're screaming because Dedd Fredd's terrifying, but I walk away going, "Hey, they had a good time with me."
Funny story. Some great things can come from it too. I'm actually seeing someone now, and how I met her was I was in character and I was running around scaring everybody, and I plowed into her and almost knocked her into a fire pit.
Oh no.
And
Jeez.
that's a unique story. And
Knocked her
apparently
off her feet.
exactly. And so since I didn't actually kill her or burn her alive, it's like, hey, let's hang out and see where this goes. So
Oh, that's awesome.
the photography too, I was going to talk about how when you present your stuff, usually when it's for sale at conventions, I see that it's framed, and you do a lot too that I think gives it that extra special little exclamation point where the frames are kind of like a painted continuation of the photo, whether it be color scheme or what's going on in the picture. Again, hats off with that little detail you apply to that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I started. It was a sort of a cost-saving measure to, hey, go to the thrift stores, garage sales, or people would just give me frames. It helped save money, but then became this whole process like, wow, I sometimes pick a frame out first, and then I go through my catalog of works and say, what's going to look good in this frame as an entire art? And then from there, then yes, like you said, I'll paint the frame or distress it, and maybe paint the scenery out a little more on the mat. It becomes more than just a framed photo now. I hope people look at it. It's like, hey, this is a whole piece of artwork that I need to have in my home.
Those frames, and of course, the quality of what you do is I got with you a few months ago, and then it just kind of went to the wayside. But my ex is having a new home built, and she has one of your pieces, and she's like, I want more. And so she's decided in her new home, she wants kind of like a wall of Fred. And so like, you and I were talking back and forth, and then she got busy. So I do have to get with you. But I said, I'm going to be talking to him. I'll set it up for you. But one of the things that she stressed was make sure that it's the frames that I was, just talking about, where it's the extensions and everything. So yeah, I got to get with you. You'll be making some money off this interview. So
awesome. I appreciate it. And it makes it fun for me. I'm not trying to degrade anybody's work, but a good photographer or painter can do their work and then put something in a frame or have a professional frame it. And that's nice, but it's therapeutic again, where I can sit and put together even a story. Sometimes in my mind is what I'm doing is I'm trying to tell a story with the photo, with the mat, with the frame, and then any extra artwork I did. So it's part of therapy. I love sitting there and listening to music and noodling away at my project.
I think listening to your explanations of your inspiration behind a lot of your stuff, I'm just going to warn you right now that Leah's last name is Stalker. I can see on her face that she is enthralled with you. So I think you are going to be her new hyper focus for a minute.
Okay.
It's true, because the thing is, people look at horror in such a flat way. They're just like, oh, you're just scaring, you're just trying to be spooky, this and that. This interview is really showing just how much thought you put into absolutely everything you do, whether it's Dedd Fredd or being a scary clown or your photography. And it's all very horror based, but it's so thoughtful. It's so thought provoking. And that's what I really love about horror, is that people kind of take it for face value, but there's so much that goes into it. So even when you're scaring people, you have a thought process to that. There's a thought process of how you want to emote and the stories. And it's just really fascinating. So yeah, if you see some weird girl following you around, see you soon.
Yeah. All right. What you just brought that up about scaring people or scaring different ways. One of my favorite things to do is now, Leah, have you seen the character live, Dedd Fredd? Have you seen me?
I have not. Unfortunately,
Okay.
I have not seen Dedd Fredd live yet. I just did my research online so far, but I'll see you soon.
Okay, very good. One of my favorite things to do is I do like the human statue, human mannequin. I learned that, back in film school. Photography, just like, hey, how long can we pose? It was just a little practice that my teacher did. I'm like, hey, this is kind of handy. Well, now with Dedd Fredd, I'll stand there as long as I can and have people walk up and it's like, is he real? Is he not real? Is he real? And then I'll just move. I don't necessarily scream. I'll just move the littlest bit and they lose their mind,
He's letting you know that it's going to be awful hard to
I
stalk
appreciate
him
that.
because he's going to be stalking you actually. So
Oh, is that? Love that.
that's
I
the
would
thing
be the
with
person to fall for that, for the
my
statue.
kids joke about that, all the different characters, because I can just make myself look like a different human being. And they always joked about when they started dating, you could be following us and we would have no clue. And I'm like, and you won't.
I'm gonna try that when my girls really get serious into dating. I'm gonna toss live crickets in my beard because I got this big full beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won't know. They'll just think, "Oh, why is that creepy homeless guy staring at us?" They'll never know it's Dad.
They'll
I
never
love it.
know it's Dad.
Thank you for the inspiration,
You're
sir.
welcome.
We've talked about so much that you're involved with, so much that you do, and I know it's just always kind of evolving at any given moment because you don't pigeonhole yourself into something specific. Can you give us an idea, like what's next for Dedd Fredd and all of your characters at this moment?
So Brian really hit it on the head. I've always wanted to do. People ask me all the time, "Oh, hey, you want to be in this project movie or whatever?" I'm always honored, but it almost never goes anywhere. It's hard to put a movie together, even with a small budget. I rather do little vignettes. And I have them storyboarded out some, especially with Dedd Fredd, a zombie in everyday life. So he's grocery shopping, he's going to the bank, he's walking in the park. Little short videos that people can just watch and get a kick out of, and they don't have to invest a lot of time and sit through some horrible movie that I tried to put together and didn't have the money to do right.
This was going to be my last question, so I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit, and I'm going to put you on the spot. So if you don't,
Okay.
feel free to not answer. Have you ever considered allowing Dedd Fredd or any of your other personas to assume a role as a recurring TV horror movie host?
Absolutely. And I've had a couple people talk about it, but it's their project. So I'm basically, hey, you let me know when you're ready for me, because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. So yes, 100%. I would really enjoy that. That would be fun. Growing up on Sir Graves,
Yeah.
the ghoul and all that stuff, to me, that would be like the best ever, even though it's local TV. Growing up on that kind of thing, I'd like to see more shows like that, where it's goofy, it's silly, campy, whatever. But I think that's good, clean fun and entertainment.
I was really hoping you were going to say that. And when we're done recording, I got something to run by you. When I asked about what's going on, what's next for you, will you be at any cons or, I mean, or do you have plans on
Oh, I'm
invading
sorry. Yeah,
any?
so
Well, no, I
currently,
wanted to know in general also. But yeah, specifically with Michigan, are you going to be at any cons or events or anything like that? Or
so the one thing I have on the books for sure is the Wicked Bazaar. It's moving out of Livonia. It had been at a church in Livonia for a while, over to the Wayne County Fairgrounds in Belleville. So I'll be there this year with my artwork and also roaming around doing the Dedd Fredd things. That's coming up. I think it's the first weekend of September. It's the same weekend every year. Ted does that too with the Gumballs, the Wicked Bazaar.
yeah, Ted's done that show the past 3 years, I think.
Sounds about
I
right.
know
Yeah.
I did with inkmirrors.com. I did it 1 year, maybe two. I can't remember now, but I'm interested to see their move. They outgrew that church a long time
Oh
ago.
gosh, yeah.
Which it's
So
great
that's
that there was so a big turnout, but it was almost just a cluster to try to move around and find a place to park. And
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah. And then with Dylan, the author of the book, he and I are talking about doing some conventions together. So that would be fun because we did his book release out in Ferndale at a real cool distillery. Valentine's, I think, was the name of it. It's a distillery slash lounge, and it's really neat. So he and his wife's band played, which was amazing. And then he did the book signing, and I was there signing, and it was so neat. I was in character, obviously. How many fans recognized me? They were on the news, and there's a fan that works at the one news station. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I know Fred. How cool is that?" She came to the event. Other guests came because it was on my page. So it was neat to see my fans come to support this book of somebody else. So Dylan's like, this is hip, having the zombie right here with me. So we're going to see what we can come up with this season.
I tell you what, this interview has been amazing because I know we have mutual friends like we talked about. I've seen you at many cons. I bought artwork from you. Unless you kind of take the time to really dig a little bit, you're kind of like a man of mystery. You're like an evil, creepy James Bond here. Like, there's a lot going on with you.
It's success. My
Yeah.
dreams came true.
There's a lot going on that you have going on, and it's just amazing. So, I mean, if anybody bumps into Dedd Fredd at any of the conventions, like he said, he's going to be at Wicked Bazaar, and that is Saturday, September 7th. There, I think it opens at 10 a.m. It's going to be at the Wayne County
Thanks for looking it
Fairgrounds.
up.
Make sure you get there and purchase some of his artwork, just not any of the artwork that I want, because then I'm going to have to break into your house and steal it, or send him in character to scare it back from you.
Yeah, Mr. Fizzle would be a good one. Nobody messes with Fizzle.
See, I've yet to see Fizzle in person too, and I'm interested to meet Fizzle.
We got to make that happen. He needs to get out more. It's fun. As much as I love doing Fred, I like to be able to to show off some of my other characters. And Mr. Fizzle's one because he can be cheeky and, a little bit obscene at times if the venue's, proper. And if they let me, I have a 6-foot bullwhip that I like to show off.
Oh, the look on Leah's face. I could take this conversation a whole different fucking direction right now, and that's probably why she's looking at me like that, like, don't do it, Clint, don't do it. Oh God. It's like George Costanza, and with a laugh. I love it. I want to see the bullwhip in person. Last question is this isn't a question, but I want to thank you for being here and sharing this amazing story and getting to know you and the characters and your passions a little more. But where can people find you on social media? I know that you're on Facebook, and where else can they see what you got going on?
I am really bad at social media. So my Facebook page, if you actually look it up, is at Dedd Zombie, so DEDD. And if folks don't know, Dedd Fredd is spelled DEDD FREDD. But if you Google Dedd Fredd, I think I pop up all kinds of places. I know I have an Instagram account I don't really use. So I'm kind of lame with social media. I know I show up because people are like, oh my gosh, you were on MLive magazine or freepress.com. So it's nice to know that I'm out there, even when I don't know that I'm out there.
Yeah, you see random photos popping up of you all over the place, like where you're downtown Detroit, fist bumping the giant fist sculpture, just all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's important that it's the DEDD. Wait, am I saying that right? Let me look at this again. Yeah, DEDD FREDD. Because if you just Google Dedd Fredd, then the movie is going to pop up with Phoebe Cates and that weird guy there. So.
Well, and people usually ask, well, why? I said, because when I realized Fred was going to take off, of all the characters he did, there was just something I'm like, he's going to go somewhere. I need to make sure the name's copyrighted. Well, how better to copyright something than misspell it? That's the marketing, that I learned back in school. It's like, hey, you gotta have something different. So when I went to copyright the name, the guy's like, I don't think we're gonna have any problem with that.
Again, we want to thank you for being on, sharing some of the layers of the onion of everything you got going on. We talked about a lot of your different personalities. And speaking of multiple personalities,
yes,
we're gonna take a break and hear from our podcast network, the PFPN.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
So now that we've heard from our podcast network, don't forget to check out Dedd Fredd's socials, Facebook and Instagram. Watch for him at upcoming conventions throughout Michigan and hopefully someday all over the world. And buy some artwork, buy some books. That's what Indie Spotlight's all about, right? Highlighting these independent artists. When you dig into somebody's past and you get a story like that, that's going to resonate that picture that he had at Legacy last year is burned into my brain. So yeah, just keep digging and you'll find, we dug up a dead guy and we found a bunch of cool stuff, right?
I agree, but I tell you what, I'm a little nervous to dig into Leah Stalker's past. I don't know how far deep down that rabbit hole I want to go.
You don't want it. My memory is blocked out majority of it. So if I'm not remembering it, that's on trauma.
I don't think you're even going to let us start that journey. You're going to be standing there with your Marlboro trucker hat and your divorced dad wallet chain and now a bullwhip in hand, just keeping everybody away.
That was such a genuine reaction. I wasn't expecting a 6-foot bullwhip. How do you... Dedd Fredd kept me on my feet. I'm going to say it. He really did. But that was such an interesting and wonderful interview. And I'm so excited that we got to learn more about him.
Absolutely. Make sure you check him out.
Hopefully I get to see him at upcoming Michigan event.
Absolutely. Make sure you check him out. Check Leah out with Pure Macabre. Check Brian out and all the crazy stuff he has going on. And check out the I Like It Spooky Horror podcast anywhere you download your podcasts. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.